Now I'm going to call us to order at 7:03 and make a note that I believe everyone is present. Sign-in sheet doesn't have anyone wishing to make comments, so we will continue to move the agenda. I had a couple of notes, they just didn't make it to anything. A reminder, the Fresh Air Theater, which will be at Amazing Grace on July 18. We'll also be at the Cahill Recreation Park, July 24th, 6 p.m. July 24 at 6 p.m. and July 25 at 1 p.m. I also was given a copy today, reminder that Saturday the 15th, August 15th. Saturday, August 15th.
15th of Redford.
15th of Redford. I was just thinking that, Mr. Manix. That's right. 15th of Redford, there is a Michigan World Championship cook-off, which I've been invited to be a judge. I'm not sure if I can yet. This didn't make it to my calendar today. But anyway, there is a World Champion Michigan cook-off at Elf's Farm on the 15th from 12 p.m. to 5 p.m.
But they're only allowing 25 entrants.
I mean, yeah, 25 Michigan?
Michigan World.
Hey.
Yeah,
it's like Nathan's hot dog.
Only judges get to do that, or can we all go there?
I don't know. Tickets are $10 or $8 with a canned food donation. Proceeds go to benefit the Plattsburgh Food Shelf. That's all I know at this point. So, duly noted.
I have a flyer by the door.
Flyer by the door. There you go. Something I think was in the paper. As you know, I wasn't here Friday and left a little early Thursday afternoon. Deborah pulled this together for us, and she was a little nervous. It seemed very small. She looked back in the archives and said, "Oh, this time last year, the year before, it's been a little smaller agenda." Update on the Schluter zoning. My comment on that is basically just to make sure you're aware. We will have a resolution to act on that next Monday at our meeting. Trevor was out last week. Phil wasn't able to get a draft for us. The resolutions for zoning amendment are a little more complex, and they have requested that move along. There's nothing left. We had a public hearing. You were there. So we expect a resolution to support the request as we've discussed it for the last couple of months. But there is no draft simply because Phil could not get to it last week. Town historian, I believe you should have had in your packet a resume from Dick Brogowski. I think it's a good resume. We've had some one-on-one about Dick. He's anxious to take it on. He met a couple times, I think, with Jerry, our town historian, through the end of this month. Jerry was quite pleased to have Dick come on board. We've done some negotiating for a salary. I don't know if that's in the resolution or not. I believe we have that. His salary would start at $10,000. We pulled some, I pulled some from Jerry's. Jerry, I believe, is at $12,000. Jerry started at $9,000 a few years ago. He'd start at $10,000. Dick was comfortable with that. I indicated to him that would allow us to pull what had been budgeted for the year, that prorated couple thousand, and put that into some direction he might want to go. Jerry's pretty well consumed his conference money, materials money, and events money, and so on and so forth. And Dick seemed comfortable with that. I think we could expect him to do a little more with the photographic history of the town. He indicated, again, some of his background, his role in the Cliff Haven Homeowners Association. So we will be acting on that on Monday. If anyone has any thoughts, comments, questions at this time.
Bernie, how did you come to choose him for the position?
He was in the back of my mind. We've had a lot of conversations with Dick, worked with Dick, he's volunteered some things, donated some photos, etc. Jerry actually came to my office with him and said Jerry had been working to help us find his replacement and wanted to share that he had, I was going to say, talked Dick into it. Dick had agreed to do it, and he was pleased to recommend it.
Somebody else,
No.
talk to you at all?
No. No. Not a position they line up very far for. Ag and Industrial Fair, Ricky, I thought I'd have you update. There were 2 items I found interesting to share with you last week. You might want to share with the board, and things they're not doing.
No, This year, when I sent the application and stuff to Glenn along with the letter onto it, and he replied back to me that this year they will not be having any fireworks or selling pull tabs or bell jars onto it, because they said they're having such a hard time to get volunteers to do that stuff for the fair. And Dr. Joe insisted that even though that the fair was paying him to do the fireworks, he was not going to pay the $250 permit to the town. So that was a member at the board meeting over there to the fair. They said, fine, we won't have any this year. So Glenn returned the paperwork back to me and said, no, no, no. So that's what it is onto it. But all the rest of their paperwork, Rye Shows is not going to be there this year. It's going to be Amusements of America, which is taking the place onto it, which they're supposed to have some fairly new equipment.
They had them in the past, too.
They've been here a couple times, but then Rye Shows took over because they were a little bit up north, per se, than Amusements of America. So when they do here, they do Malone and the other one in Lake George or whatever it is down there. They do like 4 in the area and then they go back down to Florida. But the gentleman that I talked to assured me that all of the stuff, that their equipment and stuff would be almost up to date, modernized.
Almost up to date?
Pardon me? Well,
That's probably accurate. And most of it works.
All of it's safe, hopefully.
yeah, well, it just has to be inspected by the state, and then Stevie does too, so, you know. And the other thing that, the names of their employees and stuff will be handed to the sheriff's department to do background checks, because we don't want what happened 2 years ago. When they stopped some of the people that they went in there was a couple of them that were pedophiles that shouldn't even be around the kids' rides. So they were immediately
Who's doing the background check?
sheriff's department.
Okay, anything else for Ricky concerning the fair?
Yep, insurance is
Okay.
all good. Everything's up to date for both of them. If there was anything else that needed to be done, both the fair and the insurance company for the enterprise for Amusements of America would do it instantly. So, but their insurance is covered the same thing as what it's been. So.
Again this year, and I think this year just a little more than last year, but I think back to 4 or 5 years ago and more, we were 11th hour, they're going to do it, they aren't, we didn't get the documentation, we're running faxes back and forth. And you're being a little proactive, getting the letter out, chasing Glenn to make sure these things get done is really helpful. Because no matter what, if it doesn't happen, we end up looking at that.
We've done our part of something.
Done our part. Yep. And not having the fireworks is simply a decision. So. Any other comments, questions for Ricky concerning the fair? I believe the 28th is opening day. We got an invitation again to the opening ceremony.
They're going to be here 2 days ahead of time to set up because they're coming for some other venue, and then when they leave there, they'll be here 2 days. So I got the insurance company to give it to us, the rider for the 26th. So we got 2 days ahead of time, so they can set up. Stevie and the state guy will go over and check, and by then, all of the names and list of the people that are working the rides and stuff will be okay.
Okay, thank you, Rick.
Yep.
Next, you have the minutes. Please look them over.
There's a couple things.
Okay, tell me right now if you've got them, please.
On 146, not a big thing, but on the resolve at the top of the page.
This in the minutes, 146.
Yeah,
Oh,
146,
okay.
the second page, here, 147, resolved, agreement be given to finance department, should be?
Should say the finance manager.
Finance manager? Yeah, it should say that.
You got that, Rick?
Sounds like it's Solar City. And then, I don't know if it makes any difference at the end. It's out of order in terms of going adjourned and going into executive session. But I don't think it's a big deal because you got the right times down. We went into executive session 7:35, came out at 8:17. Our meeting was adjourned at 8:18. So just is out of order. So no biggie, but I just want to make sure the yeses and the nos are in the right place for those.
Okay. All right, anything else? Thank you. Then you have the monthly reports. Please feel comfortable to communicate with department heads, any concerns. I should also note that Art Burrow indicated to me yesterday he would be back at work tomorrow. Tomorrow you will see, if they're not out there already, some cones or some barrels on the south end of the building. They're going to start the replacement of the power pole near the generator. It's, I think, kind of a big production. The pole is the main pole for power communications coming into the town. Tomorrow they're going to bring the new pole and begin to prep that. And then Wednesday, they hope, weather permitting, they'll take the old one down, get the new one up, etc. So we want to avoid the south end to the extent we can. A lot better to avoid because of a new pole going in than because of the press out there waiting to get a glimpse of a escapee or something.
Ernie, they are his guys are doing it?
No, nicely.
Okay.
Nicely. We will have some involvement. For example, we'll need to have the generator going so we don't have a hiccup in the system. And providing support as they might need it, but it's a utility project. That pole's pretty well shot. Not totally unlike things municipalities are dealing with. The infrastructure of the utility is old as well.
Does NICEAG pull the old pole?
Yeah.
Because I think on the quarry road, they left an old pole.
No, we don't need that. I honestly don't recall if they're gonna pull it, cut it. I believe they're gonna take it out and put the new one in the hole. It'll be interesting to
Because
see.
I think on the quarry road, they have a new pole up and the old pole is there and I think it's lashed to the new pole. I don't know.
Yeah, I don't know.
Very odd.
The aesthetics are,
Debbie, will you come be the clerk of the works?
Yeah.
Manage
I'll
that
bring my
project
whip.
for us?
the draft resolution for the appointment of the town historian, I looked at that about 5:10 this afternoon, and it needs work. I just at that point told Debbie we'll mop it up. We need to, whereas the town historian has resigned effective 12/31, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
On the buildings and grounds, and it's not a good time right now, but is any action taken on these incidences when they have the safety? And do we, as a board, want there to be something on here with what the actions were?
Yes and yes. You might recall back a bit, Art was putting something down. When he was putting down, I would have chosen not to put down. Many times it's a department issue. The The one with Alex was very frustrating to say the least. They've had a lot of training, we're doing more, we do the rodeo out there. Jim simply indicated that with the mower decks up and he's coming around the corner, it was a blind spot. I mean, it's frustrating because of the size of the parking lot, et cetera. There hasn't been a concern that this was done out of a lack of skills or
Is there?
careless
should we be doing
disregard.
something with the flow of traffic or something?
There have been no recommendations.
That's what I think Tom's really getting at is, it's one thing for there to be an incident. There's another thing for there to be no, I mean, we don't have an incident, we don't have any comment regarding the incident. We don't have any, if the comment were that the safety officer met with the department head and it was determined that, this was an accident that could have been avoided, or whatever, you take such and such an action, so it's something. And we're seeing nothing. Okay. There also you get and the other issue is, I don't see anything to indicate any commentary regarding either of the employees in regards to their well-being following the accident. And I think that should be part of the accident report.
Those statements exist. I know what you're saying. I can't disagree by any means. I will get those reports and we'll get them to you to be attached with this. Those reports were done.
Okay.
They haven't been captured as part of, his report. I'll talk with Art.
Do they go into the files? The files?
Yes.
Bernie, I wonder if there'd be a way to create more of a cover sheet so that Art doesn't need to regurgitate information that's already been captured somewhere else. So there's a cover.
There's an accident report.
So there's a cover sheet and there's a checkbox, statement, attached, and then their corrective measures, insurance, claim filed, letter included in personnel file so that it goes right down the list and it just becomes clearly and concisely executed. And that way we can see it, and if there needs to be additional measures.
We've got that, we do that, it just isn't getting to the report.
Right, but that's what I'm saying.
I'll get all that attached. I'll follow up with that. I should have done that. I know what you're saying. We'll get it. At least so you can see what we do internally and then have a chance to respond to it. It should be edited, et cetera, et cetera. And that will paint the picture of what happened, what was the report, what did the employees say, what was the investigation by our safety officer and so on. That all exists. It just, we'll get there. You're absolutely right. I know what you want.
And there'll be a resolution for the monthly reports too.
Just as we've been doing. Okay. Anything else on those? Historians, as I mentioned, will be rewritten. The fair is what it is. Haven't read through that draft. And we have a periodic estimate payment number 3 on the Sorrel Avenue project.
So you weren't here, so that's why we don't have the documentation.
Well, I'd like to say that, but I won't.
Got started.
On the Sorrel Avenue, what do you have?
Well, it just says LaBerge Engineering has signed off and Scott directed.
Do you have any of that?
But we don't have any of that.
I don't know what you have.
Oh, I've got the pay request number 3 for $32,880.
Okay, you don't have the LaBerge letter with the check off by
No,
Mr.
but you've got it right there.
I've
I
got
don't
it.
even have the camera.
It was separate. I
I
attached.
think it was online.
When you got the packet.
I think it was online, yeah, there was
What I
something.
do is I take
Just
this off
I
and
can't
attach
imagine.
it, go to
what
the
the
I
other-
play the originals, I don't look,
I
you
understand.
know.
There were 46 pages of stuff
Well,
online.
because he has sometimes.
Not including these.
That's more than I got.
So he has-
Not including
That was it? Okay, so you need the starter letter?
Huh?
Not including what?
Not including the,
Okay, like, I'll take.
the resolutions and the agenda. No, I lied. The agenda was page 45. And 1, 2, and 3 were resolutions and all the
Gave me
rest
this time, so that's
was
why.
attachments.
I will get the additional documentation to you now. Anything else with that?
That's the only thing.
Right. Didn't include the letter.
Usually the letter is sufficient.
Attached
but
to it, but this
That's the whole thing.
time,
Didn't have it, all right. I'm not, I looked at this after 5 today, so. That's my excuse.
Well, that's okay, I knew you were out, so I just wanted to bring up.
Yeah, no, I'm glad you do. That's why we do this, because like I said, I don't look over what you get. I usually go through with Debbie what should be distributed, and the thing we try to do is not duplicate what you get in a work session and duplicate it again, you know, for the meeting, which you know.
Bernie, can we go back to that?
Go back to anything.
This Sorrel Avenue pump?
Yep.
Is this the same generator that was replaced?
I believe this is the second one to go in there because they had problems with the first one.
And now we have problems with the second?
I'm not aware of that.
Yeah,
Great.
over the weekend.
I'm not aware of that. What, do you know anything, well,
I don't think it's working at all.
Boy,
one of the concerns that we had was that there was an issue with the power going into that site from NICIC, which may be causing the burnouts and the brownouts.
Right.
The
it's
first
almost
one, we
like
went through
a lightning strike situation.
or just, we're getting
Not
more
enough
draw
power.
to that, or too much. We were blowing fuses on the first one like crazy. And, you know, everybody was pointing fingers at the other person. But no, I wasn't aware of that, and that was over the weekend.
Mm-hmm.
Scott hovered around several times today, and we just could not connect.
There's a lot going on.
There was a lot going on. I did get some of the other information on what happened on Ruger, but I'm sure you're aware of that. Were you at the meeting today, too? There was a meeting, okay, good, nice. I didn't see you, you
And
didn't
I
see
went
me.
down to Ruger Street yesterday evening.
Yep.
Saw Josh and Tyson kind of, I don't know if they're pulling the manhole cover off or putting it back on, but I think they're just wrapping it.
Okay.
But that's,
They resolved the problem, but it's a long way from over.
yeah, I don't think that the people whose houses were affected think that the problem is
No,
resolved.
one in particular is seeking
241 Ruger Street.
help. I don't
I
recall the
don't
number,
think
but
that's the one.
there is one on the south side of Ruger on the west side of the overpass that he wants it fixed. There's a process for that, and you have to follow the process. And, you know, it isn't always comfortable. I wouldn't be comfortable either if I was on the receiving end, but there's a process. And step one is it has to go to the homeowner's insurance.
Well, what's also interesting is that there are people along that lane that have taken the advice and they have put in
Mhm.
check valves. Because it's been a consistent problem, made worse by the city, when the city backwashes at the filtration plant, it charges a surge, it causes a surge of effluent to go into that main. And we share that main. But so people have been putting these check valves in. Well, what's happened is, you know, if you didn't put the check valve in,
whoops.
and your neighbors have put the check valve in, you know, even though they're below you,
You get the
okay,
rest.
Doesn't go in theirs.
you're now the low spot because they've got check valves.
This crap falls down.
And so that's what's happening is the low spot is moving.
Were the folks
Before they
told
all,
to
they,
put
could-
it in?
they probably said, well, I haven't had,
Apparently.
we haven't had that problem, okay?
When it gets up to the new mountain at the landfill, then that's where to stop, or low spot.
Back it right in.
This is actually is above the point that would go into the old compost plant. It's above that road. But,
But I don't, Ernie, I don't think to say that it's been resolved is accurate.
okay.
I
Well,
don't think.
no,
it's
no,
been
no,
resolved.
what's resolved is they've got it flowing again
Right.
until the next time there's a surge or the next time.
Big storm.
There might have even, I'm told, I did use Scott briefly over this, there might have even been an obstruction in their lateral, which exasperated the situation. If they put a check valve in, they may not have another problem, but as Marty just well described, that'll move it up the line to the next house that doesn't have one.
For example, in the city, people who were downtown, the businesses that were downtown, they literally all had to begin to put check valves in because every time you had heavy rains in the city and you have sewer and storm sewers that are interconnected, they haven't been divided. There have been some divisions, but not all of it. You know, and that sewage treatment plant can't handle that load. And it backs up to a point and then it just comes back up the main and it'll come up the toilet, it'll find whatever vehicle it can to get relief.
Broad Street, just the top of the manhole covers.
We'll cover it
Pop the
after.
manhole cover right out the road.
Part of, let me go back to the word resolution. The short-term incident has been resolved by our crews. The problem is a long way from solved. One of the things that you did last Monday is pass a resolution to seek grant funding to take a look at the Old County Airport because that drives some attention to this Ruger Street line. And we need something with a little more leverage to get some attention there. The problem may not be in the town. The other thing Scott and I talked a little bit about is, and I equated it to the highway, the prior notice laws, which this is not highway, but we know there's a problem. At some point, some homeowners might have been made aware. When they sign on for public sewer, there's some fine print that may describe what the homeowner's responsibilities are. My thought, a comment to Scott was, why wouldn't we, there aren't that many property owners, now just send a letter to all of them indicating that if you haven't done so, you may wish to put a check valve in as some added assurance that you won't have this problem in the future, because there has been a problem. And in the event you do have a backup, it's not, if we caused it, and that's a tough thing to prove, we've been down that road in other locations. If there's something that the town was responsible for that caused that, there may be a claim.
There's not a lot of effluent that is being produced by the town, by residents of the town, that would surge that line.
It comes from Swarovski, right, as well?
Pardon?
Like Swarovski is in the,
I don't know if they are or aren't. I mean, the real problem, as I understand it, is more in the city with
but
getting that through.
Scott had said even if we put in a 12-inch pipe and fix that, it's gonna be like a bottleneck issue once you get to the city pipe.
Yeah.
So it's gonna have
Yeah.
to be a town
It
and a
has to
city
be
fix together.
all the way down. It doesn't do any good. It doesn't, we could put a
It's not gonna do any
16-inch
good.
pipe in,
No,
but
and-
if it's going to an 8-inch pipe,
Just build up pressure.
Yeah.
Right.
So
Is Scott gonna send letters to those homeowners?
he didn't indicate to me that he was or that he wasn't. That was part of the discussion we had, that it might be something we should do. These property owners have a process they can follow. One in particular seemed to be the most upset, was in today filling out the claim if you will. I don't think he's gonna be happy with the results of that. He may choose to be an attorney and sue, and we'll go the course those things go. But I mean, my recommendation is, yeah, send a form letter to the current occupants. If nothing else, the house sells 3 times, and then you have another backup. At least in 2015, we made then the property owner aware. Is it that property owner's responsibility to pass that on to the next owner and the next? We don't know. If we are not the cause of it, we're not liable.
But I think we can do our due
Yeah.
diligence to inform the community of the services.
I totally agree, and that was my suggestion. There's a difference between being fiscally liable and responsible. And I don't know when, Scott, he didn't have an answer off the cuff when or if anything had gone to property owners. But some have put check valves in, but usually it's after an incident like this. And, you get a couple of neighbors and there it stops.
What do they cost?
I don't know the answer to that question, if anybody else does.
How much?
1,200.
And
Well,
then
it
they
seems
have
like
to
a
be
lot.
checked, they have to be checked every year by law.
But that's water.
Oh, is that only water?
I don't know why that.
I
Oh,
just
no,
heard- I just
I know,
heard
I
that.
have one, but mine is on a water meter.
You were making
It's
a
on
face
a-
like that's maybe not accurate.
That seems
I
high.
put one in my rental in Danamora, and all it is cutting a pipe and slipping in something that's got a
Now, the
check
One
valve.
way valve.
This is
Oh,
a
it
sewer
is-
check.
is a-
I didn't pay 1,200, and that was a long time ago.
And
but
I
it
just had a
seems
conversation with
high.
actually Brian Dowling today, and he said $1,200, so.
For a check valve for a sewer line?
Yes,
That's a lot.
That seems
Of course, it
awful.
depends where you gotta put it.
right.
Yeah, it depends upon where it's going,
Yep,
you know.
yep. How
In some
difficult to
places
get
in
at
the
it.
city, their
If
sewage
you've
is all
got,
underneath the
if your
foundation of the
connection,
home.
if you've got a connection
Yeah,
Okay. that can readily be taken apart, okay, then they can put the check valve in and then put that connection back together again. Because all a check valve is a backhoe. You know,
Where do
if
you
they
put-
can do that, it's not a lot of money.
Where do you?
Goes in your lateral, I believe.
But
In the
if-
lateral.
Well,
Yeah.
just put it in your
if
house.
they never
3
did
inch.
it, if all they did was take a steel pipe, if all they did was take that cast iron pipe,
Yeah, you
and
gotta come up somewhere.
they ran that out, and they just got a coupling on it, now you gotta do something and cut it, and you gotta do all kinds of issues.
I paid when they made me do it in the garage, where it was less than $500. And that was with Garrow doing the digging.
Yeah.
He dug it, put it in, and it was done.
You ever have a problem after that?
Well, with a lot of homes, you're dealing with it inside the structure.
Right.
You know?
That's outside.
You don't have to go dig, do any big, significant digging.
I just feel bad for the homeowner.
Well, I feel terrible.
Really?
I mean, it's
I mean, there's only a
it's-
few houses on Ruger Street from the trailer court to the northway that are affected. Because some of those houses are below grade.
But I'm afraid if you put check valves in all of them and you have a significant
It's just gonna
occurrence,
go-
it's going to push it.
Gonna push it up. That's what's gonna, but some of those houses are below grade anyways.
Yeah, makes it worse.
There's a couple of them there that
But once you get on the west side of the bridge,
yeah,
you
you're
got
all
some
right.
that are really, no, then you got some that are really below grade.
No, I know.
But, I mean, you're pushing a lot uphill before you
Well,
get
I
there.
figure how much pressure is coming from the filtrate or the plant down there when they hit the line, you know? It's just, you know, 10-inch line.
Yeah.
I will get back to that conversation with Scott. As I said, it was a short conversation. We each had a lot of things going on. I think that was maybe 10 minutes before his 3 o'clock meeting. And I don't see how sending a letter to as many homes as we can would be a bad investment. I don't think it's good. Okay, anything else on that or anything prior? If not, I handed you a draft resolution that still says draft that I would like to put number 151 on and have you act on that this evening. Ricky, everybody have a copy of that? Ricky, this would be Resolution 151, retaining specialized consulting services.
Whereas from time to time, issues arise which require specialized legal information, resources, and skills. Whereas after a number of meetings and discussions with all involved parties, the town attorney and supervisor recommend that it would be in the best interest of the town to retain expert counsel to assist the town in managing and responding to the abandonment of Whispering Maples Memorial Gardens Incorporated by the Division of Cemeteries. Whereas the Town of Plattsburgh Town Board wishes to protect the interests of the town and its residents when addressing issues pertaining to the Department of State, Division of Cemeteries, and their abandonment of Whispering Maples. Now therefore be resolved that after review and recommendation by the town attorney, the supervisor is hereby authorized to enter into an agreement and to execute all required documents on behalf of the town to retain legal consulting services as indicated. And it be further resolved that services of David F. Fleming Jr. and/or Feather Hopstone, Wiley, and Pine LLPs
Thank
of
you.
99 Pine Street, Albany, New York, 12207, be retained to provide said service, and fees related to the abandonment of Whispering Maples be shared between the town of Plattsburgh and the town of Ellenburg. Excuse me. And it be further resolved that under protest, the supervisor and finance manager take appropriate action to effectuate the town compliance concerning the Division of Cemeteries abandonment of Whispering Maples Memorial Gardens Incorporated, and their transfer of responsibility of all aspects of said business to the town of Plattsburgh and Ellenburg. And it be further resolved that a copy of this resolution be given to the town of Plattsburgh, town of Ellenburg supervisor, Mr. David Fleming LLP, and to the town of Plattsburgh finance manager.
I have a motion.
So moved.
Mr. Woods, second.
Second.
Mr. Mannix, any discussion?
It's a small edit from this glance, but in the first whereas, I'd like to see New York State Division of Cemeteries.
In the first whereas?
Second whereas.
New York State Division of Cemeteries.
Yeah.
Okay. Anything else? Tom?
Yes.
Marty, okay with that? Okay.
In fact, we want to go it out to these people.
Bernie, how much are you intending to
We've
spend on?
We've discussed that at great length with attorneys, with others, with the supervisor, town of Ellenburg. I'm anticipating this will be a, rate set by our need for council services, an hourly rate. I don't know. I guess all I can say is we hope not to need them at all, but I think there are some decisions, there'll be some recommendations, there'll be some communications that in the at least initial stages of what's going on, we don't want to do it without expert advice. There have been a number of conversations with elected officials and agencies at many levels, and they identify Mr. Fleming and the firm as being the best in the state. That's important. We're going to make this decision once. You're going to live with it for a long time. I truly don't know. We'll certainly make sure everyone is aware of the use of the resources, the bill. I've discussed this many times with our finance manager, who's been in on many of the meetings as well. Obviously, we don't have a line for this. We will be seeking certain funds, which we would like to think would offset some of the cost. There are a lot of unknowns. It's been said by the Department of State that this may be the first time an abandonment has been with a business that was cited in 2 municipalities. That in itself is unique.
The other thing I would add, I think we could ask, I don't know if it would be accepted, that as part of the, if Fleming makes a proposal for a grant I would certainly ask him to hope that part of the grant would include his fees. The other thing is, Fleming isn't an attorney. As you probably know, he's a consultant, he's a town supervisor, he's a basic lobbyist, I believe, for the Cemetery Association throughout New York State. So, and the good thing about the law firm that he's a consultant with, they work exclusively with, say, governmental agent, people who have problems with various governmental agencies. So I don't think there is I think going to him, we've certainly gone to the one who is certainly the best. And the other thing too is, I think all of you know, when you're, say, watching this, or say, being responsible for this forever, which is insanity, by the way, there's an awful lot at stake for the taxpayers, so we want to make sure that we can get enough money from the state to make sure that we can get them repaired, and then enough money in the trust fund to keep them maintained, because it's a huge burden. It's something we've never anticipated with, we've talked before, the thing about mowing the lawn twice a year, 3 times a year. This time you've got a building and a crematorium, and it's a very different deal. And as Bertie said, in 2 towns, and so there's an awful lot, and it's really been a hot potato in our lap. So.
And I believe that this Department of State is reaching beyond the scope of legislation, of the existing legislation. I mean, I can remember dealing with abandoned cemeteries laws back in the 60s when it was first, or 70s, when we were first confronted by it. And, it was an unfunded mandate, and it was weeping and gnashing of teeth about it. But like you said, I mean, it amounted to, we had to go in and cut down some trees and clean up some property, and we used summer work crews to do a lot of that kind of stuff, and we got it done. And then from that point on, it was a matter of putting it on the punch list for each, for twice a year to go in and clean them up and make sure that they're properly cared for. And we groaned every time a new one was found. This is not an abandoned cemetery.
It's a business.
This is a functioning corporation. And it is the purview of the Department of State to have overseen the operation of this entity, and they failed at their responsibility. And now they are trying to drop that on our doorstep. And we are, the taxpayers of the town of Plattsburgh are being asked to bail them out. And that's garbage. It's their responsibility to put this thing in working order before they turn it over.
Yeah, but even then, since we have to keep it forever. I
Well,
mean, this is totally
I agree
wrong
with you,
that
John.
they put the burdens on the towns for that particular purpose.
If you're going to change the law and you're going to say that mausoleums are going to be, are going to become part of it, then it becomes incumbent upon the establishment making sure that the proper funds are put in place. However that has to be done. And some people, have to take a hard look. The bottom line is the state of New York at the onset never should have allowed these things. These were they were flawed from the onset. They were non-sustainable, could not possibly survive. They are the epitome of pyramid schemes. When you're all done and you've sold every one of those crypts,
That's it.
you're out of business.
Yep.
And how now are you going to provide for perpetual care?
But I think one of the things to echo your comment, Marty, is yes, it's unsustainable, and I think we need to advocate for process too. What was happening with this organization, business, this criminal, that the Attorney General really should be investigating the process in which this, got to this state. Not only if we're going to have to receive it and transfer, we're going to need to receive as much of the funds to maintain it in the future, but we should be advocating for a moratorium on this in our community and beyond our borders for the long term.
Well, I agree with that unless someone can come up with a formula that then makes these sustainable.
Yeah, well,
I
it's
don't know, I don't know.
But I
Yeah.
don't see that, I don't see that happening, and I think part of our responsibility is to make sure that we are not saddled with another one of these.
Oh, I agree.
In, the next,
You know, and I don't
whatever
know how
number of
you do
years.
that, I don't know how you do that other than you do what you're saying, and that is, from a zoning standpoint, we pass a moratorium that says, if somebody else shows up on our doorstep and wants to do this, we say no. You know,
Yeah.
That may
We're
be
not
something
doing-
else that
unless you
Mr.
can-
Fleming can help us with, the
Yeah.
language that would enable us to do just that.
Yeah.
But, but more important, I think more important because it's very clear that the Department of State has got this tar baby and they're looking to drop it on us, okay? They are not owning up to their responsibility, and they certainly are not owning up to the responsibilities that they did not meet previously. And that's the issue that should not be allowed to go by unnoticed.
Well, it won't go by unnoticed. The other thing too is what makes it particularly ironic is with the 2% tax cap.
Yeah.
Can these bodies be moved? Or do they have to
There's a
stay?
legal process for that, but that's not on the table.
I want to move your mother's body. Are you
No,
going to
but
stand by
I'm
it?
not in
Still
a
alive, so she
mausoleum.
can move her
Huh?
own.
I thought in a mausoleum, there actually is a term contract, meaning that you have that crypt for a 10-year or something. I believe, because I think my uncle or whatever was put in there a year or two ago, and someone said off the cuff that it's not like you leave the body there forever.
We
So
haven't
you-
seen any contracts, so we
Haven't
don't know
seen
that.
You may want to just look into
It's
that.
part of our problem.
Because then it
There's-
won't, right, but it won't be a perpetual thing. If those contracts are ending, it'll be the latest one, if that's a 10-year thing, and whether that can be negotiated with the family or, but I don't think it's a perpetual contract, that once you put a body in there for a fixed price, that it's there forever, like a cemetery.
But what do you do then? You pull them out?
I'm not sure what the contract says, but
Yeah.
I do recall
So
someone
that's
saying that
almost
there was a
worse.
fixed term, and maybe something to
That
look
could
at.
almost
That
be
would
worse.
good.
If you've got
Well, maybe
1,500
it's a
burial
pretty
We
sites,
get to tour these people
Where-
and
Well,
tell
no,
them,
so
oh, no,
maybe
you
it's a
gotta
pre,
get
there's
Bob.
a
No, they
contract saying
know
the
it.
body will be cremated and
where
moved to
do you
someone.
put
Probably don't.
1,500 bodies?
Well, they're
And-
not real
and-
bodies.
What do you think
They're
that
bones.
crematorium's for?
Now,
But that's-
fortunately,
That's
I
a
won't
cold
be.
Maybe
one.
something to look at. I think.
The other thing I want to make sure we make comment to the record. There's going to be a lot of discussion, there's going to be a lot of emotion, there's been a lot of that already for a couple of months. Now we're taking some more definitive action in response. The other thing that we need to, and I know among ourselves we said, I want to make sure it's said publicly, we have a fiduciary responsibility to the taxpayers, to the community.
Absolutely.
We have a ethical responsibility to those who are interned there. And there is also a responsibility to, I suspect, some residents and many people who may not be residents. Again, we have no data, so we don't know the breakdown, who have invested in their future resting spot. And now what happens? It's very complex. One of the things that we very much are pushing, and process was used a couple times, the word, it's the process by which the transfer takes place. And it is more than just give us a new roof today to, keep us quiet. So this may very well become a test case. I've had conversations with our senator, our assemblywoman, with all the powers that be, the governor's office, comptroller's office, attorney general's office, et cetera, et cetera. And I keep reminding them, the next session, there's going to have to be new legislation to update the law, to address this, et cetera, et cetera. So hold on, but this is going to get out rapidly now, and we're going to be very busy. And all the issues are important. The backup on Ruger is very important to those people that have that problem. There are roughly 1,500 spaces over there. That's a lot of phone calls too. We are going to be, no pun intended, buried for quite some time. But with this resolution being passed, we will get the number one thing we need, which is an anchor to go to for guidance, recommendation, feedback. We're not going to be bullied. We've established that, believe me. We aren't the first time the division's done this, but we may be the first time they've had a pushback. Any other discussion on the resolution? Roll call.
Thomas Wood,
Yes.
Martin Mannix,
Yes.
Michael Passion.
Yes.
Michael LePage,
Yes.
Bernie Bassett.
Yes, resolution carries. I will keep you informed. And see how it ends up, I guess. With that said, if no one has any other business for the evening, I would like to adjourn us at 7:53.